in Seattle, Washington, and we are starting a series that we're calling Ask an Expert. And we thought it'd be really fun to get people who work in our business and interview them about what they do. Our first guest is my oldest referral that I love to refer people to. I have been using her as my main lender referral for almost 18 years now. We're old,
I
Angela.
mean, we're going to have to face the facts.
Welcome, Angela.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here because I am a mortgage geek.
Yeah, yay!
Yay!
Our favorite geek. And so, Ange, how long have you been in the business? When did you start?
Well, I started while I was at community college and
Wow.
working part-time at the mortgage company, and that was in 1989.
Wow.
Yes.
Man, you are very important in all of our clients' lives right now. As the interest rates are going all over the place, and what are one of the things that you think people can do to counteract the high interest rates as far as tricks that you're using and tools that you're using right now?
Right. There's a number of things that one can do. Always being prepared to purchase is good. Credit scores, obviously, down payment. Those are going to be big players in your interest rate. But then there's a lot of different programs right now that have come out, such as 2-1 buy downs.
Yeah, we love those.
Yeah, and the other thing that kind of comes to mind, and what is old is new again, and that is, seller paid closing costs.
Yeah.
That could potentially go towards something like a 2-1 buy down.
And will you explain a 2-1 buy down to people who might not know what that is?
Yeah, so a 2-1 buy down is where we take whatever the note rate is that it's going to be. Let's say, for example, 7%. The start rate would be 2 percentage points below that note rate for the first year. So 5%. That'll be for 12 months. Then it will step up to 6% for the following 12 months. And then once the third year starts, you'd be at 7%. Ideally,
so
you could refinance by then.
Right.
But
so you sort of buy yourself 2 years, you buy down the rate, you buy it down 2 points for the first year and 1 point for the current rate for the second year.
Yeah.
So what are the costs associated with refinancing? If somebody wanted to refi after a couple of years, what does that look like?
In essence, it's the same sort of cost that you're going to find when you purchase. What happens generally with refinances is that you can potentially get what is termed a free refinance, but really free simply means that the interest rate might be a little bit higher, but the closing costs are still going to be similar.
Yeah.
There's some variables that are a little different, but for the most part, it's going to cost about the same as your purchase.
Right. Whether that's rolled into that little higher rate when you refi than what it currently is on the open market.
Right.
My uncle calls that it's not free, it's included. That's a
Correct.
family meme that we like to quote at many times.
Yes.
And I'm sure people are always asking you about the market and things.
Right.
What are the for sort of the other loan geeks and financial geeks wonks out there who love info?
Yeah.
Where do you go for? I mean, I know you're watching the LIBOR rate in London and you're doing all kinds of things that I don't even know the tip of the iceberg. But what are the public places that you go that people could go to find out, like, what's the best financial news? Yeah.
Also subscribe to a service. It's an industry service. It's called Mortgage News Daily, but they have a professional piece that I pay for, which basically has live market data that comes through, sort of like a ticker. And it's really specific to the mortgage market, to interest rates. So it's going to be your mortgage-backed security market and the 10-year treasury market, and then a number of other things that will come. But they have a public-facing interface website called Mortgage News Daily. I think that's a great place for people to go to get information. It's presented in a way that's easy to understand. It has probably more detail specific to how rates work for a home loan. Right, as opposed to a car loan or as opposed to a credit card or a home equity line of credit.
Because we hear a lot that they're raising rates, maybe like the New York Times, they're raising rates, or the Fed's raising rates. That doesn't always necessarily correlate to the residential borrowing rate going up.
This is true. Yep,
yeah,
exactly.
Or down.
Yeah, so for today, the Federal Open Market Committee had their meeting. They raised rates by 50 basis points. Well, they raised, the federal funds rate is what they raised. Now, oftentimes if it's what's expected, which it was, you don't see any change in interest rates because the market's already, they've already built that in to what their rates are going to be well in advance of whenever the rate is changed.
Yeah.
So, it's just, a matter of if there's any surprises, the markets don't like surprises. And so, and inflation, of course, has really upended most all models,
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing. Yeah, all bets are off. Exactly.
We have a lot of theater clients, as you know, because they're your clients too.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of people who work self-employed, who have many, many W-2s. I know you just knock on your underwriter's door and say, "Oh, this is a Sarah file," and so they know that means they might see a bunch of W-2s. And for this kind of client, what do you think is a way to kind of plan to be successful for a house purchase in the future? Sort of, what are some of the things that people can get together and organize for themselves personally before they can kind of prepare?
Yes, and preparation is the key.
Yeah.
With that sort of scenario, what we really need is all the documentation. So it's going to be a matter of being organized, having tax returns filed.
Yeah.
Ideally, always having those filed, having all the W-2s at hand, all the 1099s at hand. It's even helpful to sort of have a spreadsheet of, incoming, all the jobs, when that particular position may have started. So even though you don't work there consistently, it may be that every year you work there for a period of time for some purpose or another. So just keeping good records is really important. An underwriter is going to look for stability of income, how long one has received that type of income is, variable income. If you file a Schedule C, be aware that any expenses you write off are going to come right off the top of your income.
So a lot of times when we get contacted by people who say, we want to buy in a year, one of the things that Angela and I, and you've taught me this, is, you may not want to take as many deductions for that year, and sort of how to having your income be as fortified as possible for the next year of purchasing.
Yeah, because it's all about, the stability of income and the likelihood of it continuing.
Yeah.
So that's what an underwriter is going to be looking for. So good records, good documentation.
Yeah. And also any kind of credit repair. If you start early, you can do some credit repair.
Yes.
You can take out some lines of credit and pay them consistently and sort of get the score kind of
a number of things. Yeah. Always, if there's ever a question, it's always good to get started early. I think sometimes people think it's really scary to make an application for a home loan, but it's really, not that scary. It's really, it doesn't, if we're not ready to buy now, it's not a bad thing. We just put in a plan, and
we've had many clients who just
a year later, 2 years later.
Who make a plan and then you blink and then it's 2 years later and then they're buying a house.
Yep. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Don't talk to us. You will buy a house.
It's true. Yep, exactly. So, I think just preparation. And being informed.
Yeah. Well, what's one of your favorite parts about doing this job, Ange, before we leave?
Well, I've been doing this a really long time, and I think, the best part of the job is just working with great people, who really, homeownership is really important, one. And I enjoy being able to participate in that process. I mean, I'm a true believer in what home ownership can do for people over the course of their lives. And, so it's kind of fun to be part of that.
You get to be in on the party.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, I'm just, pushing papers around.
Yeah. Well, we thank you so much. You do so much for us and for our clients. You have come through, oh my gosh, we've lived through some amazing in all different markets.
Yeah, this is true. That's true. We have. I mean, the stories we could tell.
I remember when I first started, you took me out to coffee probably 5 or 6 times before I finally understood what APR was.
Oh, yeah.
You were my first and best teacher.
Like, ignore it.
That's what you said. She said, ignore it. That's what it stands for, APR.
I'm just kidding.
Thank you, Ange.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.